We want to get people to get out of their cars to walk and cycle and use public transport, but to a lesser extent as much as we can. And we want to give them access to public parks, gardens, and public spaces with opportunities for leisure, recreation, and essential components of a healthy city. We can create a citywide walkability, we can create a neighborhood walkability, and we need to create also a street level walkability. So all of these parts of the city, we can make places, we need to make places for people to walk, always. So remember that the neighborhood contains 20 to 30 people, the community 200 to 3,000 people, the district 3,000 to 4,000 people, and the city is 50,000 to 100,000 people. So that's the radius within that usually we find in 20 miles. So this was for the city of Rotterdam when we created a vision for the year 2100. So I'm just taking that slide and just showing it to you, just to remind you. Now, for walkability, what does walkability mean? Walkability in Wikipedia is defined as a measure of how friendly an area is to walking. It benefits health, environment, and the economy, presence or absence and quality, footpaths, sidewalks, or other pedestrian rights of way, traffic, and road conditions, land use patterns, building accessibility, and safety are all factors influencing walkability. Among others, walkability is key to the concept of sustainable urban design. It's the pillar, it's the basic pillar. Now, let's have a look at this chart. Pedestrians first, it's a mix of infrastructure, activity, and priority. So as we see over here, we want an infrastructure that ensures a physical space and design that promotes walking. So sideways are sufficiently wide, in good conditions, clean, unobscured, and protected. Crosswalks are accessible for all pedestrians, safe to cross, and sufficiently wide. I mean, this is a major problem in the Middle East. It's a pity, to be honest. Signals give priority to pedestrians to cross first and limit wait time while ensuring enough time for all to cross. Activity. Bring people and activities close enough to walk in the safe and lively environments. A mix of activities and service activities activate the street from morning to night, making it safer and more interesting to walk. You kind of like do also like the people watching part. Street vendors and sidewalk amenities such as seating, shade, light, and garbage bins attract more users and animate the sidewalks. On street parking that is well managed and well priced can claim traffic while creating a buffer between moving vehicles and the pedestrian realm. So it's a mixed use. Priority, give preference to walking, cycling, and transit over private cars. This is really seen in Barcelona, by the way. The transit such as bike share, bus, BRT, and rail are reachable by foot. Small street widths are easier to cross. Slower speeds for traffic, 100% Barcelona. By both design and enforced speed limits make safer and more enjoyable walking environments. So the priority should always go to walkability. In general, Spain is like that. France is like that. The UK is like that. All right, so modes of mobility. We want people to walk more, cycle more, use horses, carriages as possible. Limit, we want riding boats in general because they affect the biodiversity, that the aquatic life, let's say. And we want electric cars if possible, but to a minimum, and electric trains and modes of transportation. But now with the times of viruses, I mean, these could be, the train could be, the shared transportation is reduced. So people can always switch to these other modes of transport. Now the street design. Now the street should allow for water collection, having also an edible food garden, urban drainage for water collection, and the urban drainage reaches the gardens eventually. Okay, so the zones that are divided over here, there's a frontage zone for like for arcs and for shops. This is from 0 inches to 6 inches. That apostrophe over here means inch. The pedestrian zone is next to it for people to walk. It's 6 to 8 inches. Furniture landscape. Basically, this is for trees and any food garden if I want to make one. Then walking, 6 inches for that, and then also 6 inches for walking and cycling. And we have a buffer zone which contains the water collection on the side with narrow tilted stream with an inclination, so we can collect water. And the flex lane, 8 inches, and then the travel transit, 11 inches one way, and then coming backwards the 11 inches, and the whole idea gets reflected back again. Some examples from our design for the city of Rotterdam. This was the current map, and the problem for Rotterdam, we were trying to, there were the wicked problems, there were economic, social, and ecological problems. For the ecological, the problem was for water. For the socio-economic, there was a lot of gentrification and, you know, different races, but people don't mix. And the built area is the economic places next to the port over here, and so that created a problem in cases of flooding, and they needed to produce more organic food and more natural food, and they needed the people to mix more. So when we designed the city again, we added more spaces for river, we added more swales and stream food forests in order to allow the water retention and the water to expand in there. And then we added, next to the watersheds, we added perennials, which are trees that hold the soil from erosion. We had a railway line, we had, and that was the river. We had universities, conference halls, trains, bus station. We had the airport, public libraries, city hospital, schools. And then we had the neighborhood, which was in yellow over here. What we tried to do is we tried to take basically the original map over here. We took the original map and we tried to transform it with less built area around the river and put more green around it. And they already had 50% for the for nature, kind of, and 50% for built area. But we just needed to redistribute them, and we needed to put more of the neighborhoods next to each other to make them more of the 15-minute city view, kind of all close to one another. So we kind of concentrated the people in certain areas, and we put more of the industrial, the commercial zones within the residential zones. We also use the roads for mimic the shape of the veins and leaves in leaves to also collect water and to allow for, basically over here, to allow for easier permeability. The district over here is self-sufficient, ecocentric, self-organizing, and there are places for people to exchange knowledge, goods, and material. There's a community center, there's a recycling hub, there's a library, healthcare unit, carpool, a recycle pool, bike pool, library, cafes, compost, and waste collection system. And we try to kind of look at the veins and reimagine the shapes over here. I kind of wanted to make it more curved, but the designer who was with me was more into, let's take whatever was there and just let's recolor the spaces and fill them in. But I am more into biomimicry and taking curved shapes because they actually save space more. So there was a plant nursery for planting crops, a community garden for which means crop garden, fruit trees, animals, and cattle in this neighborhood. This is how the neighborhood looks like. Joint streets, recycling of all waste, there was compost, and there was a waste collection system. Now the buildings, they kind of took these shapes. I mean, I suggested this shape because they maximize space efficiency as much as possible, and they block the wind, so wind doesn't hit it goes over them with such designs. And you can see how people are interacting in these spaces. For the outdoor strategies, obviously we have to make sure that we are paying careful attention to winter, to summer. and building for, we put arcs and arcades, and we add trees in order to prevent wind as well. We use these shapes from nature in order for green architecture, in order to allow space efficiency, allow contoured land space between buildings and water flow, to make it aerodynamic, to protect it from rain, to give natural ventilation and natural light, thermal efficiency and passive heating and cooling, water catchment and grey water catchment, grey water treatment and rainwater proofing and insulation. So these buildings should follow these criteria. And we looked at shapes from different shapes that can be done in order to maximize space efficiency and concentrate neighborhoods as we see, but also incorporate greens. These are different geometries as well. Again, nature has many shapes that we can look at. Also, homes were relying on renewable energy and water catchment. And these are, this is bigger centers. This is cultural center, and more of the solar panels around the neighborhood over here. So this was a neighborhood plan with private gardens, and there was grass and wild vegetation all within the garden. Then another layer over here that shows the main existing roads within, and the greens are nested between them, and with some private roads and speed controlled roads, and some areas for a bus stop and the bus route, underground parking spaces and surface parking and carpool parking. But again, we want to avoid parking spaces. And so eventually this is how it looks like over here. All of this is an example of a ByZ factory. So these were, they kind of followed like a zigzag shape. So this will enhance a low carbon community. And it's south facing, the solar panels are south facing over here by the Z strategies. So the community to be maintained in our neighborhood, we need to have places for them to have cooking activities, hiking, biking, outdoor yoga, outdoor painting, outdoor exhibitions, learn how to plant food, permaculture courses, build swales for water catchment, build eco homes for a local community, take part in discussions and for designing ethical futures, exchange knowledge, poetry and art, play music around the bonfire, but not too much because it causes pollution. Make organic compost, make useful materials, as in finding wealth in waste, open air cinema and open events, stay at a local eco refuge, local swimming pools, make eco-friendly products, and having nature cleanups. So education, the vision was everyone needs to learn at any age, and everyone teaches at any age and learns at any age. Hands-on experiences in outdoor communities, skills to be taught, various skills, as you can read over here, for people to always be engaging, but also spending more time in the outdoors, and also involves a lot of e-learning and technology. Community participation in shaping policies, as in co-design, and having people to reflect on ideas, and they get involved actively as citizens in designing and shaping the city. Also relying on the smart city, where all of these facilities that we see over here, waste management, health, parking, we call it smart health, smart parking, public safety, smart buildings, smart environment, all of them can be connected by technology and tracked, meaning we are always getting data.